Hi, I am Lynell Doyle. I run Allergy Kid 2006, me and my son, the Allergy Kid, who's 15. I do most of it now that he's 15 because he has a real life and everything. So, my son actually has three conditions. He has food allergies, he has severe eczema, and he has hypertension. We discovered that he had eczema and food allergies probably around the same time, about 3 months old. When he was born, he had a whole really big full head of hair. And then about 3 months, 3 to 4 months old, his hair started to fall out. He had cradle cap. So those were the first signs of him having eczema, basically. And in
Mm.
addition, we discovered that he had an intolerance to, well, what we thought was an intolerance. It turned out to be an allergy to milk and milk-based, dairy-based formulas. So when he had to get formula, he started to have soy-based formulas. And when uh, we started to treat his eczema really, really at a mild rate at first. Then when he got to be about 2 years old, he started looking like a little strawberry. It just really took off and went everywhere. And he was still pretty young, so they were kind of cautious in terms of treating him with more steroids. But steroids was still the pretty much the drug of choice, steroids, moisturizers. So he had those. When he would get oral steroids, though, he'd clear up and he'd look beautiful for a few days. But oral steroids are not an effective or even a great long-term treatment, really, for him, and especially as a child, and not something that we really wanted to do. But he still continued to have quite a few outbreaks, and then he'd go back and forth between oral steroids. He would still use a lot of topical steroids, but
Mhm.
he just really overall was not getting better.
And I'm
Um,
guessing at this time you were running back and forth to pediatricians. Like at that point, were you going to allergists or dermatologists? Like who was helping you?
he started off with an allergist pretty early. At about 2, he started off with an allergist. They assumed that he probably had asthma, but he didn't initially. It was just he had two of the triad. He had the food allergies. So, we're recreating, he's moving into solid foods and we're cautiously moving him into solid foods. They're, doing what limited testing they can do for a young child in terms of food allergy testing. And then in addition to that, because he has such severe eczema and he was young and it wasn't something they were trying to do, he couldn't really get patch tested because he didn't have a big enough patch that was available anywhere. So we're doing that. We're going back and
Mm.
forth. Um, Pediatricians for when he got an infection from his eczema, and dermatologists, allergists regularly. So when he was probably about 8 years old, we enrolled in a clinical trial, which would be the first of a few different clinical trials that he'd done. And through the course of the clinical trial, they have to take your blood pressure and do some other, medical type workup things. Well, his blood pressure was high. And so they kind of said, let's take it again. They took it again, and we were ushered immediately to the emergency room. And we discovered
Oh,
that he
wow.
had hypertension. And by the way, the trial didn't work. It was a trial for crisaborole, which did not work for him, even when he got to the open label portion of it. So it wasn't really something for him. But we like to think that what we got out of it was finding out that he had hypertension. Now, they we've he currently sees a nephrologist, and they have no known reason as to why he has hypertension. But he's also a child that's been using steroids pretty much since birth.
Yeah.
So I can think of a few reasons why he might have it. I mean, he's
Yeah.
always been active. He's not an overweight child or any of those things. So I'm kind of guessing that that has something to do with it, with
Yeah.
my Google medical degree and
Yeah.
all.
And your parental instinct. What
Yeah. So,
you've seen. Yeah.
yeah, so from 10 to now, pretty much we've gone through a few different trials. He's done Dupixent, which he failed miserably.
Hmm.
Initially, it seemed like it was working. It seemed like, the magic wand that a lot of people say that it is. And I'm so excited for those people, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But
Yeah.
every treatment does not work for every person.
Yeah.
And he's one of the persons that it did not work for. So here we are now. We're doing he's been patch tested. So
Hmm.
in addition to uh, 6 of the top 9 foods that he's allergic to, he's also allergic to a couple other foods, as well as some environmental contact type things, such as blue dye, which is really a hard one
And you
to
found that out through patch testing, or was
through
it
patch,
okay? Okay.
which I really wish if I could wave a magic wand, go back and change one thing,
Yeah.
it will probably be that, and he would have gotten it when he was about to.
The
Because,
patch testing? You wish you got the
oh,
patch. Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. Because even though he still battles eczema, we have it's not quite as severe as it had been before we knew of the additional things he was allergic to, such as cobalt. As I said, the blue dye. He's, a boy who's been on quite a few sports teams, and for some reason, they absolutely love blue. So he's been wrapped in blue dye since forever. So,
Is that how he found out about it? No, no, from the patch testing. Okay, sorry, sorry,
from the
sorry.
past testing.
Okay.
But we had to make changes. I mean, his wardrobe, instead of being 90% blue now, is pretty much mostly black, white,
Got it.
those kinds of.
Got it. So, that's really helpful, like what you wish you knew before. Is there anything else that you would tell parents who are new to the journey that would save them time or anything based on what you went through, including like diagnostic tests, anything at schools, just whatever you wish you knew?
Absolutely. I did know, fortunately, he has a 504 plan that covers his food allergies as well as his uh, his hypertension and his severe eczema,
Okay.
which the school is marvelous. They've always been great in terms of him and any kind of food or contact allergies, but we still got the 504 plan because you can take the 504 plan through college and even into the workplace. So there can be
Okay.
that day and that particular person that says absolutely, absolutely not. We're not going to accept your work. Your absence not accepted. So I feel like the 504 plan has really, it provides that coverage in case that happens.
Okay.
So I
Got it.
think that's most important. And to get it as early as you can, have it, written as completely, thoroughly, and planned out in terms of the future of that child. Because I think that's the single most important document that they can take with them into the school.
And that is the 504 um, is different, obviously, than an IEP, but the 504 often is for children that have medical needs as well, right? And so, who do you work with to set the to get the 504 set up and implemented?
Well, there are probably a few different routes. What I did
Yeah,
was I spent a lot of time on the internet because I think I've been awake for like 16 years.
yeah,
But I found out how to start. So I saw the doctor first, had the doctor,
okay,
um, you go through, explain the medical conditions, and then you connect with the school's counselor. There's a meeting. We have a meeting every year to update it. And then in that meeting, there's the counselor, one of his teachers, and the child is a part of the meeting because they can also talk about things that they may need. For example, my son cannot be in a hot room. So the teacher has to control the temperature so that when right now it's really hot, like it's going to be 90 here today.
Yeah.
So if it gets so hot, then the sweat causes him to itch and that type of thing even more. In terms of food, like if there are food, they have parties or food holidays or things like that, they call me so that he can have um, some type of alternative or so that he won't come in contact to what it is that they're eating. I never realized, even I have food allergies myself, but at the time that I grew up, it pretty much was something you kind of swept under the rug. But I never really realized how many food, how many parties or food events exist in school, and I hate them all.
Yeah.
But
Does your
it's
adrenaline go
like,
up? You just get
yeah,
stressed.
it's
Yeah.
like walking through a minefield. So, but they have to call me. In terms of lunch, my children have never eaten the school lunch, but the cafeteria called me, the dietitian, and they can actually go through a plan to order specific foods for him because he has the 504 plan and because they
I
have to
see.
provide him with something that he can eat. But we
Hmm.
just weren't comfortable with it, so we send him
Yeah,
lunch.
that makes
But
sense.
it's available. That does exist. I told the school that, I mean, one of his allergies is dust. So
Yeah.
as soon as he was diagnosed with that, which was kindergarten, they had to take apart the classroom and they cleaned all of the vents. They cleaned the desks. They cleaned everything. And
Wow.
they cleaned with the chemicals or the supplies that I supply for them, the areas that he sits in.
Okay. So you're constantly monitoring, advocating all of that stuff, right? You said for the past 16 years you've been doing this. Um,
Yeah.
do you have advice? Uh, this is actually such a personal question. I just added it because I'm that parent too. I've been doing this for 5 years for my daughter. Um, if there's one piece of advice you could give on like how to survive this marathon, I'd love to hear it.
I'm not through it yet. So
Yeah,
I'm still, even though my son's in high school, it can be rough, but I think developing just relationships with those who are providing service to your child is important. And I make it a point to go in and to meet them and to talk
okay,
with them so that if my child is having a reaction, I don't want them to think about it. I want them to treat my child. I don't
interesting.
want them to be irritated by the fact that, I've been there. I want them to treat my child. So I think that
So you're
that has helped.
advocating so they notice it. You're almost like helping train them about what to do in the moment if it happens. You want them to take
Yeah,
action. Okay, got it. Yeah.
absolutely. And then there's that extra piece of gratitude because even if my child, even if there wasn't this extra layer for my child, I'm very grateful that they're educating my children. I remind them, thank you for educating my child. You're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
A few compliments go a long way. Those teachers that I've talked to, they actually call me, they email me, hey, we're making silly sandwiches on Friday. What can Bryson have? Or, there's even, some parents they'll call for their kid's birthday party. We want to have something for him. What kind of cake can he eat? So a little goes a long way and it makes everybody feel good, to be
Yeah.
quite honest.
Yeah. Um, so Bryson is 15. And what has he said about his journey and his understanding of his health, which I think could be very helpful for parents of younger children and like what to look ahead for.
It's been rough. A lot of times he will say each year or each time that we're getting the allergy testing, I really don't want to be allergic to dairy. I really want ice
Mm,
cream. You know, I understand, and then when it doesn't work out, and I'll say, there's always the next time. There are always these other things that you can enjoy. He has been a food allergy counselor or a food allergy mentor through Food Allergy Canada for like the last, I
yeah,
want to
that's
say,
cool.
4 years.
Yeah.
So he works with the younger children so that they can express themselves. I think label reading is number one, because if you can read the label, you'll know what it is that you can and can't have. That's the most important thing. And be able to advocate for yourself and be able to say no. Sometimes it's hard to say no because you want to be like everybody else. So,
Hmm.
like I have gotten fearful that he may try something because everybody else is doing it.
Hmm.
But he stands up for himself really well, and he's an excellent label reader.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, are there any other, you're not based in Canada though, right? If you're in the US? Okay, got it.
I'm in Michigan.
Okay. Are there any other resources that parents should check out where they're either good for the child, like Food Allergy Canada to be a counselor, or other websites or must check out places that you'd recommend?
I should have had that ready. What I'll do is I'll send you a list.
Yeah, great.
You can
Perfect.
share. Yeah, we've checked out quite a bit. For his
Okay.
eczema, we are part of the National Eczema Association. So
Yep.
we're going to the Eczema Expo in about a month. So there are a lot of resources
That's
there too.
awesome. Okay.
They have a camp as well.
Okay. The last question I have is if you've encountered any bias in the system, the education system or the health system, how have you navigated it? And do you have tips for others?
It's a really good question. I yes, I have encountered some bias in the healthcare system. This one dermatologist basically told me I can't fix your child because I can't fix who his parents are. So I yeah, he said that. I felt as though he was being racist until another family that I'm friends with who are white, he said something even more awful to them. So he's just generally not, uh,
Pro
he
parent.
doesn't have that bedside manner. So what I see though is actually both food allergies and eczema are expensive chronic illnesses to have. So what I see is more so if you don't have the money to do it, it's kind of like you're in a rut. And I really wish there was a lot more assistance for it. There is, I feel I want to say it's Canada, but don't quote me. If you have certain allergies and you can prove it, you can write off some of the expenses on your taxes. We can't do that. My food bill looks like a house note every month. My
Yeah.
moisturizer bill looks like a car payment on a very fancy, fast car.
Yeah.
You know, and there are other costs that are involved with it. I mean, especially with the eczema. We're on our third washing machine because the emollients that we have to put on them, you're cleaning them out, but it's only going to last for so long. So there's buildups inside of the washing machine. I couldn't understand why. I'm like, am I purchasing bad
Yeah.
appliances? But these are offshoot costs for that. We have to keep our house really cool. So, there's an
Makes sense.
energy
Yeah.
cost. If you're someone who can't afford to have air conditioning, you just have a fan, you may feel pretty crummy,
Hmm.
so they're both expensive. I see that, in people, which is unfortunate. Whenever I get samples, I try to share them as much as I can because I know that we've been blessed in terms of receiving different samples and having different things. It's really hard. The really good moisturizers are really expensive.
Yeah. Yep. I, if anyone has figured out how to unlock reimbursements for these kind of things, please shout out and get in touch. Um, is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd want to share with other parents?
Well, I would just say don't give up, It's hard. There are really bad days. They're really dark days. My son's going through a small flare today. but you've got to look for the good in it. The flare that he's having, that he had over the weekend, is like a tiny little uh, candle compared to the raging fires that we've had before. And it doesn't go away. A lot of it, as I said before, is chronic. Recognize it for what it is. It's chronic. You can still live with it. There's still hope. There's new information coming out
Okay.
all the time. And just, always be vigilant, always advocate, be unafraid to share your story, be unafraid to speak up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. If Bryson ever wants to share his story with us, we would be honored to have it as well. I think that perspective is so important. Um, Thank you, Lynell. This is really, really helpful. I appreciate how much you share your story and how much it helps others. It makes a huge difference.
Thank you.
And I will ping you and I'll get those resources from you whenever.
Yes, I will send them to
All
you.
right. Thank you. Have a good week.
Have a great week.
Bye.